Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Lord, hallelujah. I remember that song when I was a young fella. It was Paul Robeson used to sing it, and it was in an LP in our home when we were children. My father had it. I liked it very much, and I used to play it to myself. You'd put the speed at 33 for a long playing record, and you'd turn it on and put the needle on the outside of the record. You'd close the top of the box. It was called a black box. It was considered a very flashy kind of recording device. And there you'd sit and listen to the voice coming out, crackling away. Paul Robeson. And I used to love it when it came to the high bit. It said, sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Oh, yeah, Lord. Sometimes I'm almost through the ground. Oh, yeah, Lord. Of course, I couldn't sing then, and I can sing not now. I can make an effort at it. As I said to a fellow one time, I can act singing. There was another time I was playing the flute, and a fellow said to me, God, you're good on the flute. I said, I can act playing the flute. I have a trick of making myself look good, but I'm not actually a good flute player. Not by 1,000 miles, and I'm certainly not a good singer. But that is a song that I love. I think you learn songs when you're young, and they kind of go into your computer. They go into the fabric of your whole consciousness, and they're there forever. Because you repeat them then through life. You might learn other songs as you get older. In your midlife, you might try and learn songs. But it's extraordinary how there's no songs that are any more familiar than the songs you learn as a child. And you keep coming back to them. Now, when I was a young fella, a teenager, I didn't know that I was depressed if I was. I think I knew I was kind of melancholic. But I certainly loved singing that song. And when I sang it for people, they'd look at me as if I had two heads on me. I used to presume it was because I wasn't a great singer, but looking back now, I also suspect the reason was it was such a miserable song. It's a very beautiful song. It's a lamenting, sad cry of despair, really. And it suited me. Do you know, I felt it saying something about me. So I was always very glad to use it. And I still sing it sometimes when I'm in a dark mood. But I sing it like, I sing it like a candle. Do you know the way that you'd say a candle, you light a candle in the darkness? And sometimes singing a song is the same as lighting a candle. You're embodying joy by singing. The minute you sing, you become a different person. The brain and your consciousness seems to be functioning in an entirely different way than when you're talking like this, when you're thinking and being rational, or when you're reading something in the newspaper or on the screen of your laptop. When you're watching a movie even, there's moments where You can bring your body towards a sense of joy when you're reacting to a movie or when you're reacting to music. But there's nothing as completely immersive than actually singing yourself or dancing yourself. And when I was young, we got loads of opportunity to dance. We danced 3 times a week when I was in my 20s. When I lived in West Cavan, and it was normal to go to dances at night, 3 times a week maybe, Friday night, Sunday night, and maybe then Thursday night. But even after that, you would come home to people's houses and they would put on music, Hank Williams or whatever, and you would dance around the kitchen. Now, where I was reared in Cavan Town, you couldn't do that. The idea of dancing in the house would be as daft as playing a fiddle on the roof. It wasn't a house where we danced. And anyway, there was carpets on the floor. So you couldn't dance on a carpet. And on top of that, the kind of music that I was listening to was Paul Robeson, and you certainly couldn't dance to him. But to this day, the singing of a song, even a lament, and that's a particular one that it's do you know, a mantra in, let's say in Buddhism, it's a way that focuses your mind because it's a rhythm. And the mantra brings you somewhere. Well, music does the same thing. It's a rhythm that brings your mind into a space of emotion. It brings your mind from your rational brain down into your body. And you find yourself singing with your whole body. And if you do it at Christmas time, you can have an embodiment experience. You can feel that your body is celebrating Christmas. You can feel that your body is singing the joy of Christmas. Now again, it was easy when I was young to do that. You could go to the church and you could actually join in with the choir and the Christmas services. All those hymns like Hark the Herald Angels Sing and The First Noel and Silent Night. And it was acceptable that everybody would join in the singing. And I think that there's just less liturgy now. There's less ritual in the churches. And especially with COVID, I think people are missing it terribly. I know that a lot of people watch the Mass on the services, on television, on live streams on the internet, but there's nothing that can compare with actually being there, because being there is embodiment. When you share in the Eucharist, you're taking into your body what you believe to be the mentor deity, the body, the blood of the Lord Jesus. And when you do that, you are embodying, you are becoming him in your flesh. And that's a very, very profound, wonderful, beautiful, amazing ritual. And a one that can be healing and liberating and lift you up. And that's the kind of stuff in the physicality of it, I think, that people are missing at Christmas. So there's nothing can be said about that, you know. I mean, there's no consolation can be given for the lack of this sense of liturgy, the sense of, as I say, singing for me is part of it. It's part of embodying joy. I am a candle when I sing a song, and I don't sing often enough. Even when I'm alone, I don't sing often enough. I used to when I was younger. I used to sing when I'd be on my own. Somebody'd come round the corner, but they'd know I was there round the corner because they'd hear me singing. I might be singing an old folk song, or I might be singing very badly, very poorly. But I was singing. My body wanted to express this sense of joy. And I think when it comes to midwinter, the light and the darkness become symbols. Pieta House uses it very often, that symbol of, you know, the light into the darkness. And if you think about COVID, or you think about anything bad, it's always easy to use the symbolism of darkness. You can say that COVID is a very dark experience. We're going through a dark time, you can say, because of the pandemic or because of sometimes poverty and destitution and that we haven't the money to pay the rent. You say these are dark times. Well, the next kind of thing that you always say is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And lighting a candle is an image, it's a poetry that embodies in the image hope for the future. When people are generous and give for Christmas and they go on the internet and they find that they can support Concern or Trócaire, and you give to these things, you're generous. You press the button and you donate 20 euros or something. Well, when all that adds up, it feels like a light in the darkness. It feels that all those gestures are embodiments of hope. Sometimes we need to have a ritual to do that. We need to have a ritual for the darkness. I was watching the midwinter solstice from Newgrange yesterday morning. There was a few Bowron players and it was all looked jovial and hopeful. And when the moment came where people felt that's the sun rising, this is the midwinter night is over, people started hugging each other, and you could see them. It was on camera, and it was lovely to see people hugging each other, hugging just, the way you do it, would say if it was a big Eucharist or something. And then they were queuing up, and they had a chance to go up to the door. Now, the door of the tombs in Newgrange was closed because of COVID and all that, but they were coming up to it, and they had a queue, and each person in their own time would just go to the door and they touch the lintel, the big stone slab across the top, and they just hold their hands in it there. And you could see them with the hands reaching up and touching the stone. And there's a lovely sense that they were praying. There's a lovely sense that they were embodying hope, and that they were like, trying to absorb a good energy from the ancestors, trying to absorb the light of heaven, trying to absorb the light that comes into the darkness in that tomb. And the light comes in, and it just one shaft of light comes right through the whole chamber, and it fills up this end area, this wide chamber with light. And you could feel that they were there holding that stone and feeling that they belonged to that light. We're in that light, we're embodying that light. And then sometimes they would do some other gesture of bowing or touching or reverencing the sacred space that was in front of them. And I really was moved because, I felt that it's an example of how ritual never dies. Ritual expresses something about me that is not the rational side of me. It's another side of me, but it's just as important. Equally as important. And I'll read you, for example, I have it here on the desk. This is accidental now, I'll just read you this. I'm reading from a fellow called Teilhard de Chardin, a guy who lived in the 1950s. He was doing his work, and he was a Jesuit priest as well, and he wrote a lot of stuff, but this is a book by a woman called Ursula King called Towards a New Mysticism. And she's talking about Teilhard de Chardin's interest in Eastern religions. Okay. And she says this: one can say that Teilhard looked at religion and mysticism from a universal rather than a particular perspective. With varying degrees of clarity, he affirmed throughout his work that in man's reflection on himself, the presence of religion is an essential datum, a basic fact to be taken into account in any systemic study of man, historically as well as theoretically. Religion is an integral part of the phenomenon of man. And I think that is that has been a very helpful insight to me in my life when I stopped speculating about God. What is God? And is there a God? And is there no God? And all that. And I began to realize that religion needed to be analysed from a human point of view. Forget God for a moment. Just think of it as something humans do. Humans do religion. And you can use the verb do because very often it's about ritual. It's about embodiment. It's like religion is faith in a way that cannot be spoken of rationally. You can do it rationally. You can talk in terms of ideas if you want. You can talk in terms of, theology and scholastic ideas about God. You can do that if you want. But really, religion is not about that. It's religion at its fundamental level is embodying that which cannot be rationalized. And one of the most powerful ways that we embody the mystery of hope, the ritual of joy, is with candles. It's such a simple thing. I mean, we use them for all sorts of rituals that are social, that are, look at the dinner table, look at the house at Christmas and all the candles that we've lit and all the little flickering flames at the dinner party. We're not doing it for electricity. We have electricity. We're doing it because those candles symbolize something. You have to have your heart in it when you're lighting a candle. There's a great sense of joy. You might be doing it to celebrate the fact that the family is together. And you might have different layers of meaning on that. Just to be together as a family existentially is enough. That's enough. That is heaven. Or you may imbue it with deeper senses of consciousness, of enlightenment, of love and compassion in terms of Buddhism, or love and compassion in terms of God's gift of his Son Jesus to the world, the light of the world. There's loads of different ways to think about this. Islamic and Jewish cultures have different ways of thinking about it, but yet they're all nearly the same. They're all nearly the same. And they all gather around the idea of darkness and the idea of a candle, of a flame of light. You see the eternal flame sometimes, at the grave of the unknown soldier, or in the middle of the square in Warsaw, where the army uniform guys, even in the cold frosty nights, they're standing there over the flame that never goes out. The flame is such a symbol. And I suppose this is midwinter. And I'm thinking this evening I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to get a match, I'm going to get a little nightlight, I'm going to put the nightlight in a little blue vase. And it sits in front of an icon. And for me, that's my choice. And I'm really, really aware that it's not necessarily your choice. But from an Islamic point of view, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever, and from a totally humanist point of view of expressing this sense that we are not isolated in our own ego. We are actually loved. We are held and cherished by other living beings. And you may say by living beings, and that is just humans, or you may say it's humans and animals, or you may say that there are living beings that are invisible to us. You may reach out the possibility of living consciousness as actually being beyond your own capability to even understand it, so that there may be angels, there may be messengers of God's energy that come from the ground of being and reach us with a sense of enfolding us in love. There's so many different ways to think about this. And there's so many different places we can be and different levels of suffering that we can have. So you could be in hospital at the moment. You could be waiting for an operation at the moment. You could be terrified of COVID. You could be lying alone in a bed with a bad chest, with a temperature, and nobody to come and see you. There are so many ways that we feel alone, and there's so many ways that we are alone, and there's so many ways that we desperately need the candle, the sense of a light, a sense of a hope. And what I said at the beginning of this meditation, I said, I used to sing my sorrow, even though I was unconscious that I was in sorrow. But the song, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, I used to identify with it, and I would sing it. I would sing it to myself, cycling along, alone on my bicycle as a 16-year-old, in the darkness, with my little lamp on the front of the bike, shining its way into the dark, lighting up the hedge as I'd be driving, cycling home from the study hall in school. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. And there's times when we feel like that. We feel nobody knows my sorrow. You may be feeling it at the moment. You may be feeling that there's a place deep inside that doesn't connect with other people, that you can't bring to the front all the time. So you're at the front with a mask, with a face, with a sense of identity, trying to be cheerful, maybe trying to get other people through Christmas, and yet inside you have a loneliness, you have a sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Sometimes sorrow comes in waves. Sometimes it comes in waves that can't be named. It's not because you're in hospital. It's not because you're ill. It's not because there's trouble in your family. You're a joyful person. Everything around you is blessing you. You're in good health. You have a beautiful family. And yet, inside, sometimes you can feel this strange sense of sorrow. And I used to feel that as a young fella. But what amazed me was that I was singing my way out of it because that's what young people do. They do it unconsciously. It was only gradually through life that I realized that's what I was doing, and in fact I stopped singing as much. But the idea of singing is something that makes you a candle, makes you into a candle. And if you were alone or with people, if you're having a quiet Christmas or a great big wild and lively Christmas with your family, somewhere sing. If you have a good voice, a tenor voice, a bass voice, or no voice at all, sing. Sing something. Don't even sing the whole song. Sing just one sentence of one verse or one chorus to yourself. Sing it silently. Sing it when nobody's listening. Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Your song might be Silent Night or Hark the Herald Angels. The first Noel. Go into the church and sing it along with the music of the choir. Walk down the aisle of Aldi's, Lidl's, Dunnes Stores or wherever else, Super Value, and sing with the music that's coming out of the loudspeakers. Somewhere sing a phrase, just one phrase. Still the night, holy the night. Sing it if you're watching the telly and you're watching a carol service and there's 3 or 4 people in the room and you start humming along with one of the carols. Nobody will notice the difference except you. You'll be singing. This is a physical exercise. This is an adventure to become a candle. Physically. Your whole body becomes a candle of light. It becomes a kind of a vessel of light. Think of what a candle is. This is what you are when you sing. And if you think of the desert fathers and mothers, the holy mystics in the 3rd century in the deserts of Egypt, or anywhere else in the caves of Europe for hundreds and thousands of years, or in Celtic Ireland, you think of those monks. One of the things they always did was they had a kind of mantras. The most favourite and obvious one was what they used to call, what they still call in the Orthodox tradition, the Jesus Prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. If you go into an Orthodox church, a Russian Orthodox church, and you don't understand anything, you keep wondering, what the feck are they singing? Because they keep singing Gospodi Pomilia, Gospodi Pomilia, Gospodi Pomilia, Gospodi. And it's like, what is that? And then they tell you, that just means Lord of mercy on us. And you think, feck that. Because we think of Lord of mercy as like, I'm standing before the judge and I'm terrified. Oh, please have mercy on me. But in actual fact, they don't mean it like that, because mercy is like kind of a wonderful outpouring of God's energy, of love. So it's not a kind of a judgment. It's not kind of holding a verdict over you like a judge. But it's like a loving mother embracing you. Lord have mercy on us. And that fills us with light. And that's why they sing it. And that's why the monks had these mantras, if you like. And I say mantra because, yes, the Tibetans had exactly that. And all the Asian Buddhist traditions, you'd hear the monks chanting. When you embody the candle, when you sing hope, you become present. There's nothing makes you more present than singing. You have a party in the house, you turn off the television, and everybody sings a song. You have an experience of being present in the room that is far more intense than just watching telly or just listening to radio or whatever, because everybody is a candle. Everybody is becoming alive with light, embodying something that is not rational. It's just not something you can dissect with a logical mind. Why are people sitting around singing? There's no rational explanation for singing. And yet, we know when we do it, we become fully, completely present, fully alive. We feel like it's a light inside us. Our heart is open and joyful. Do you know the way sometimes you'd ask a fella to sing and he'd say, I haven't the heart to sing? You know, when sorrow or sadness had struck somebody down and they were in mourning and bereaving, and you'd say, will you sing a song? And they'd say, no, I don't have the heart to sing. But it's interesting that even people sometimes when they are broken, when they are in grief, sometimes use music to actually become a light again and heal themselves with light. Keening and weeping and mourning is also an embodiment. It's also fully embodying grief and letting it sing out. And the very embodiment of it awakens us and helps us to cope with it. I won't be singing for anybody over the Christmas, but I will be humming along sometimes here and there, wherever I hear music, in the supermarket or anywhere else. I'll be humming a line or two because I know the lines of Christmas carols. Rejoice, rejoice, O Israel, to you is born. That's a lovely one. And sometimes you get a line out of a carol like that. And you can take it inside and just repeat it to yourself all day. Rejoice, rejoice, O Israel, to you is born Emmanuel. once in Royal Devon City. I don't know that one, do I? But you can get a line or two, and it can become your mantra. And you can float through Christmas Day actually meditating on and off through the day without anybody noticing. And there's another really beautiful thing they do in Buddhist tradition, which is really lovely. Do you know, sometimes they have this visualization of a Buddha and receiving light from the Buddha, the light going through the crown chakra, the top of your head, going right down into your whole body, so that every sinew, every atom in your body becomes light. Now that's very beautiful, but also in those kind of meditations or visualizations, there's a moment where they kind of visualize the light going out from you, like that you are the Buddha. Because you are the Buddha. You, the one I'm talking to right now, yeah, you are the Buddha. You are fully awakened. You are simply going through cycles and processes of refinement, whereby you become more conscious and more awake as you move through time. You can think about that as for this lifetime, or you can think about it for an endless amount of lifetimes. But what's happening is you're not building enlightenment. The enlightened mind is who you are. The disturbing emotions, they're the foreign weeds. They're the invasive species that you want to get rid of. And when you just get rid of the disturbing emotions, you find that the natural state of your soul is at complete peace and complete oneness with all cosmic energy. We are here to experience bliss, and we're here to experience joy and happiness. That's our destiny. It's only a question of removing the obstacles. And the same is true in the Christian tradition. Same idea about the fact that we may have fallen away from God, but that we are healed. Our propensity to move further away from God, to go in the way of alienation, is kind of rectified if we kind of embody Christ. We find that we are one single thing, one being. That's joyful too. That's good news, and that's really what Christmas is about in terms of the narratives around the story of the crib and the infant being born in the stable and the angels we have heard on high. Good news. What is the good news? Well, the good news is just what I'm saying, that despite the sense of disturbing emotion, despite all the ways that we feel alienated, despite the ways that we feel isolated and lonely, we will be healed. We are healed as we embody Christ, in Buddhist terms, as we awake. So those two things are very close together, Buddhist or Christian. It's the same candle, if you like. You could light the same candle in a Buddhist temple, a Buddhist prayer hall, a Jewish synagogue, or a Christian church. And it would be the same candle and the same symbol, the same sense of light. Same symbol, different houses. And when you sing, you become the light. You sing a little line of a tune at Christmas. You will feel it in your body. You will feel your entire body becoming awake, mindfully. I think there's no better form of mindfulness than singing, or playing a flute, or playing a fiddle, or playing any old instrument, you know. No better, there's no better kind of mindfulness than music that you make with your own body. It's not rational, it's ritual. It is the essence of religion. And I suspect for some time it may become the future for us in the West of how we behave religiously, is to find rituals that come from within, from our place of isolation, our place of alienation, our place of loneliness. That actually, rather than feel, we're missing some big ritual that's out there in the church, we begin to find ritual inside, in our own bodies. So thank you very much for being here. Bye-bye.